I have an awesome conversation planned for you with today's The Remember Who You Are show. We will be talking about what Ra says was the purpose for building the pyramids of Giza. And with me to discuss this topic is an amazing guest who is a regular on Conversations with Roland that you get to meet right after this. The prime directive for every human is to know thyself, which is not a discovery, it's a remembering. And that's the goal for this show, to help you remember who you are. I am your host, Roland Achenjang. Guys, welcome to the Remember Who You Are show. I am your host, Roland, and today we will be talking about the Pyramids of Giza. We will be discussing what Ra had to say about the Pyramids of Giza, and with me is the most amazing person to discuss this topic. I am talking about none other than my very good friend, Jim McCarty. Jim, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing well, Roland. Thank you for inviting me back. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's my pleasure to really have you back. And even though you may not know this, but a couple of the conversations we had are getting a lot of engagement and excitement on YouTube, on my channel, particularly the one about the eight densities of soul evolution, according to Ra. Um, that is really helping folks. And so I thought, hey, why don't we have another conversation on a different topic that Ra discussed, and then see what kind of, I guess, value this would provide to anybody who listens to it. So I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Just real quick, how are things on your end, and what's new?
Well, I guess some of the biggest news is that we have a new website now that went into operation last August. Our old one was built in 1991, so it was kind of antiquated, but this new one is very futuristic and very friendly, user friendly. Uh, People can search it for all kinds of topics, from all of the channelings over the years to talks and interviews, podcasts. So whatever topic you want to search, you can do that. And this past January, we've hired two more people to help us. One woman in Venice, California, will be taking care of seeker email. She is very good at answering seekers' questions. Another woman is located in Dallas, Texas, and she'll be in charge of planning events, both online and in person. So we're hoping that that'll take some of the load off of Gary and Austin so that they can do other things that are going on now at LNL Research. So that's the bigger items. And we have been doing our channeling circles twice a month, and people are getting much better. We're hoping that this fall we might be able to get back to doing our homecoming, and we might be able to go back to having public channelings. So we're going to wait until the middle of May and make that choice. But right now it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, and I certainly do hope that when you revisit the whole idea of open channelings, um, the decision is that yes, we're going to move forward with that because I would be honestly excited to attend one of them. Another thing too is I have to say it's so amazing to see how much this material has transformed and helped people throughout the world. The raw material, that is. And now, following COVID, we know that people are working remotely and it seems to be the norm. But here you have folks who have contributed to the sort of transformation of this material from all over the world. And then now you got employees in California and Dallas, Texas that are going to be, supporting L&L research every day. Now, I say all this to ask you that when you guys were working on this back in the 80s, did you have any sense of how it would transform?
Oh, we had no idea at all because back then there was no internet. People could not communicate around the world so easily as they can now. and share information as is now possible. We were just so thrilled to be in contact with those of Ra that we just did all we could to make the information available on a wide range of topics, that, generally focused around the evolution of the mind, the body, and the spirit, why we're all here on Earth, and what part the one infinite creator plays in all of this, and where that creator is. And turns out that creator's everywhere. So even before the internet.
No kidding, right? The I guess the creator was the very first internet. It housed all the information, and he could share it with you through meditation, kind of, right? That's one of the ways.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but speaking of all this information about who or what the infinite creator is, and what we're doing here, this conversation today about the pyramids fits right into what uh, you know what we just discussed about who or what the infinite creator is. And so let's get into it. I feel like I get together with you, we could talk about all kinds of topics. But I'll start off just by saying the creator is infinite. And one thing I've learned is that it doesn't exist as one thing to only serve one purpose, right? And looking at mainstream media or mainstream information, there are all kinds of theories and reasons for why the pyramids were built or how the pyramids were built. And can you just touch on that a little bit about the beauty of the creator being able to express itself on one thing as one thing and then mean an infinite array of things to different people?
Well, the basic purposes of the pyramid, the Great Pyramid at Giza, was in the Queen's Chamber to allow initiation to take place. And initiation is basically a means by which anyone who wants to be what we would call a seeker of truth and to be of service to all, the creator and all people and all things, would go through this experience to discover really who it was so that it could, if it wanted to, become a healer or a teacher or a worker in whatever field of endeavor might be its strength. So the Queen's Chamber allowed that type of experience to occur because the spiraling energies, I don't know if you can see this. I don't know, is it too bright light?
It's too bright. I tell you what, though, I would love it if you could send a copy of that and we could
It's
add
a
it in the
drawing I
title.
made of the pyramid years ago, and it shows the King's Chamber and the Queen's Chamber. The Queen's Chamber is just above the beginning half spiral. The light spirals 2.5 times. The prana, the love light of the creator, spirals 2.5 times in the pyramid. Then the third spiral goes off the top of the pyramid like a candle flame. So right above the Queen's Chamber is where the first spiral begins. And that's a very powerful point. And it allows a person to become initiated there, to through the desire to know the creator and to serve the creator is intensified at that point so that the person becomes the creator and not consciously aware that that is what it is and that it can use whatever talents it has now and serves to others much more effectively. And as you go just a little bit higher, the middle of that first spiral of prana is where the King's Chamber is located. At that chamber, it's possible because the spiral is as wide as it gets at that point. It spreads out the chakras, the energy centers of the one who wishes to be healed. And it automatically interrupts the red-violet protective shell each person has that holds in place whatever degree of healing that is necessary, whatever degree of disease or health a person has in mind, body, and spirit is held in place by that red-violet chakra system. And in that King's Chamber position, it is interrupted by just the shape of the pyramid so that the one who is the healer can look at those energies and work with them. And if it is appropriate and the one to be healed wills it so, and its higher self agrees that you've learned the lessons that this distortion or disease was meant to teach you, then you can be healed of it. And then that red violet protective shell is reintegrated and holds that new level of health in place so that you can go about your life in a new way, travel a new path because you've been healed. And so after that first spiral, then there's a second spiral that we don't know exactly what they were used for. It wasn't used in the third density. We have some indication from Ra that it was used for teaching in the higher densities. And then the third spiral that has all of this energy that goes off the top of it is used by fifth density entities for travel. And interestingly enough, there seems to be a pyramid in the area of Bermuda in the Caribbean where this spiral is occasionally, it lets go its energy. And if there's an airplane or a boat above there, it disappears. And that's called the Bermuda Triangle effect. And a lot of people have wondered about that through the years, but it's just like most pyramids, it's sort of out of tune and it doesn't have a steady expression of that energy. So it just every now and then, and if happens to be a craft in the way, it travels somewhere and we're not sure where. And then down below the pyramid and below that first half spiral is what's called the resonating chamber. Now that is where a person can go to, as Ross said, to meet the self that you are, and then the higher self, and then perhaps the creator. And it is what would be experienced as being buried without any chance of survival, so that you give up all thought of living as you were, and you are willing to become a new person. And that is what is called resurrection, that you become a new person. You also, it's a similar process that goes on in the initiatory process in the Queen's Chamber. So in general, that's what happens in the pyramid. Ross said there were other uses that we could today make of the pyramid. If we want to meditate within a pyramid, it can help our meditation. It's a good idea, though, to have a smaller angle than the 76-degree, 18-minute angle of the Pyramid of Giza, because that does create the King's Chamber position. And you don't want to be in that position if you don't have a healer with you, or if you don't have the proper intentions. I mean, there's a problem. It can be a dangerous angle. Sensitive people can be distorted more than they were before. So it's good to use an angle less than 70 degrees if you want to make your own pyramid to meditate in and receive the benefit of meditation. It's enhanced in the pyramid. And in a small pyramid, one that's really, really tiny, 2 inches maybe on the side, you can put beneath your pillow and get that energizing effect. And the mental acuity can be enhanced, and the physical sexuality can be enhanced, and the spiritual will, the desire to seek, the creator, can be enhanced by that little pyramid. But it shouldn't be used any more than 30 minutes because you can become over energized and over radiated. It's like being hooked up to an electric battery, and you don't want too much of it. So 30 minutes is the limit, Ross suggested. So that's a general outline of the pyramid and how it can be used. I think you also mentioned that there were 6 balancing pyramids around the planet. And those are for the purpose of trying to get the planet itself back into a more balanced position on its axis, and also as it receives the in-streaming energies from the universe, from the galaxy especially. And there have been so many problems with human beings, the way they've conducted wars and separated themselves from each other and were totally unaware of the law of one, that the planet itself needed to be balanced, because these disharmonious or bellicose type of attitudes had caused a problem for the planet itself. And so there were other 52 other healing and initiation pyramids that could be used to heal and to initiate, and also to extend the life of a person, the length of life, because if you have more time in the incarnation, then you have more chance of learning what Ra called a portion or a distortion of the law of one, which is called the law of love. Here in the third density, we're trying to learn how to love unconditionally, open our hearts in unconditional love. So that would be more possible if we had more time. And the not using the energies of the universe in harmonious ways tends to shorten the lifespan. So
Absolutely.
so the lifespan could be enhanced by these healing pyramids, and that's what they were used for.
That's what they were used for. Fascinating take there. And so much information, Jim. Just so much.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
yeah. And what's even beautiful about what you just all shared is that even though Ra tells you this is what the pyramids were built for, you can see that it wasn't just one purpose, right?
right.
There is the primary purpose of, you know, fulfilling a desire to serve the one infinite creator by knowing who you are. If you wanted to initiate that process, like you mentioned, you would start in the Queen's Chamber. If you really wanted to go all out, which to me feels and sounds like a near death experience
Yeah,
when you go through a very, very significant transformation and you come back as an entirely new person, then you would go into that resonating chamber and sort of mimic the death
right.
and rebirth process. And then following the work you do in the Queen's Chamber, the King's Chamber allowed you to also go through a transformational process. But like you mentioned, transform this protective layer you have around yourself that is basically kept intact by the two outermost chakras from the seven main chakras that we have, right? The red and the violet. Now, one thing you talk about is having a healer with you. And can you speak to that a little bit more? It sounds like it's if you think about it from let's say shamanism standpoint, you would come in as an initiate, and then the healer would serve as the shaman or somebody to guide you through this work. Is that correct?
That's true. Basically, healers were being used in the king's chamber. And that was because at that point, the chakras were spread out so that you could see if there were blockages of any kind that would keep the prana, the love light of the creator, from flowing freely through red through violet. And there usually are, because when we make pre-incarnative choices, we program certain things to learn. Each of the chakras has a different level of learning that we can participate in. And the lower three are necessary to unblock and to clear so that we can get into our hearts and make a graduation to the fourth density. So pre-incarnatively, we program ways of unblocking the energy centers, red, orange, and yellow. And those are manifested in our daily lives by certain what you would call diseases or deformities that we have not been able to consciously become aware of. And because we don't consciously know what they are, then they are kind of given to the body to symbolically represent those lessons. So the healer can help to discover those lessons and to ask the higher self or the creator if those lessons have been learned. And then if they have been, then the one to be healed actually heals itself. Uh, the healer makes it possible for that to take place. And the creator within that one to be healed and the one to be healed are working together then in unity. And there is a healing that takes place. And then the protective shell is replaced, and it will now have a different conformation of mind, body, and spirit that will hold in place for you. That new way of being, I'll call it the novel experience, the healing now can go forth for the rest of the incarnation.
Yeah. I, so why that is such valuable information is because many times when we hear that we have blockages within ourselves, we think of it as isolated and negative and say, "Oh, I don't want this block," not realizing that many times those are lessons that we chose to learn pre-incarnatively, and then the only way to learn them is to have the experience it, I guess, learn from it, right, and sort of assimilate what we learned from it. I think that that's really important, that assimilation piece, so that you're not looking at the block as a negative thing. You could actually be grateful for it as a means
Oh,
to,
right.
yeah, yeah, means to an end. Okay, you talked about the shape of the pyramids. Let's focus on that real quick. So two things you mentioned, and I were the angle at the top of the pyramid should be less than the 70 degrees. And then the pyramid should not be so big that there's enough space in it for it to create a king's chamber. Um, and you mentioned just because of if you don't have the, say, I would say proper training or the proper support in terms of another healer around you, spending time over 30 minutes within that could actually be more detrimental to you. What about the angle causes sort of this additional risk for you?
Well, it's that the 76-degree 18-minute angle that causes the problem. So that's why you need to be having an angle that's less than 70 degrees. Then the king's chamber position is not created. It's not possible to have a problem with because it's not there.
Yeah. Okay.
So we found that 60 degrees seems to be a very good apex angle for meditation and aid in meditation.
Okay. And so in reading the raw material, there is a portion where Don is asking questions that relate to a pyramid that you built, Jim. Would you mind discussing that a little bit about what it was like building a pyramid and what your experience was if you spent time meditating within the pyramid?
Well, I built one out of clothes hanger rods, like the rods that used to be in your closet you hang clothes on. They were wood. Ross said that wood or plastic was fine. In these days, I think we'll probably go more for wood because plastic is seen as something that's kind of detrimental to the ecology. So I built one. It was 60 degrees, 10-foot poles, and it was aligned toward magnetic north. And Ross said it was built within good tolerances, so he did it okay, but it would work better for these people, talking about us, Don, Carla, and me, if it was aligned 20 degrees east of north, because that is apparently where the new age or fourth density energies were coming from and are still coming from. So the effect of the pyramid would be more easily noticed at magnetic north, but it would be more subtle and more effective for those who are seeking to become fourth density beings and to be of service to others if it were 20 degrees east of north. So that was the degree, that was the direction Carla's body was pointing when she was lying down and in, channeling those of Ra. Actually, she wasn't in her body, but her body was pointed that direction. She was with Ra in the
Yeah.
inner planes of the earth.
Absolutely. And let's talk more about constructing a pyramid, right? Because you built one, you used materials that were here of the earth. And what was unique about your pyramid, I would assume, and correct me here, was that the sides were open, they weren't closed.
Right.
Okay. Now, the pyramids in Egypt and just about everywhere else throughout the planet, right? All, I shouldn't say all 52 because I haven't seen them, but I am almost 98% sure that all of them have closed
Right.
faces, all closed faces. And for the life of us throughout the planet, we've been trying to figure out how an ancient civilization like the Egyptians were, 4,500 years ago, able to build such imposing structures with the technology that they had. And I'm going to be honest in saying that I've been very, very fascinated by all the theories that have come up. Just a couple of days ago, I watched another documentary about the pyramids on curiositystream.com, where they tried to recreate how the pyramids were built. And it was just such an, what I would call, inefficient, labor intensive process that I I guess I have my biases. This might be a distortion that I have that's blocked, right? Where after reading the raw material, I just see that all these attempts are really nice ways of creative expression, But if if that's the way the pyramids were built back then, to me, I'm just like, there's no way they could have put the structure together with the precision, with the height, with the alignments, with the um, planetary bodies, right? Bodies of the solar celestial bodies, etc. And so I'm gonna leave this to you to really describe what Ra talked uh, about how they built the pyramids, because I think this is super fascinating.
Okay, well, I'll give you a general outline and I'll read you Ra's actual words. What the entities of Ra were doing, and we don't know exactly how many were doing this, but from what we understand from another fellow who's a channel, Paul Shockley, in Cosmic Awareness Communications back in 1980, he had an image when he was channeling cosmic awareness that he saw beings that were visible from the waist up and not visible from the waist down. And so we asked Ra about that. And so Ra basically said that what they were doing was they were communicating with the stone, which was living stone. There was the creator in the stone, and they asked the creator to shape the stone in a certain way so that it would create what we saw as a pyramid. That's the basic outline. What Ra said, questioner says, how were the blocks moved? And Ra said, you must picture the activity within all that is created. The energy is, though finite, quite large compared to the understanding distortions of your peoples. This is an obvious point well known to your peoples, but little considered. This energy is intelligent. It is hierarchical. Much as your mind-body-spirit complex dwells within a hierarchy of vehicles and retains, therefore, the shell or shape or field and the intelligence of each ascendingly intelligent or balanced body, so does each atom of material, such as rock. When one can speak to that intelligence, the finite energy of the physical or chemical rock body is put into contact with that infinite power which is resident in the more well-tuned bodies, be they human or rock. With this connection made, a request may be given. The intelligence of infinite rockness communicates to his physical vehicle, and that splitting and moving which is desired is then carried out through the displacement of the energy field of rockness from finity to a dimension which we may conveniently call simply infinity. In this way, that which is required is accomplished due to the cooperation of the infinite understanding of the Creator indwelling in the living rock. This is, of course, the mechanism by which many things are accomplished, which are not subject to your present means of physical analysis of action at a distance. So they talked to the rocks, which actually was talking to the Creator. And the Creator talked to the rock and passed on the desire. Could you shape yourself in a certain way? And that did, because the whole creation is alive.
The implications, I tell you, every time I read that, I get goosebumps because it resonates with me as, this makes sense. This is so true. And I have had personal meditative experiences where I've communicated with other sort of, I would say, living things that we would not even associate our ability to communicate with in the way that I did. But this is so fascinating. And we have glimpses of this today in the media, right? Like plants can talk and feel and exchange communication with it. Sorry, it looks like you want to share something there. Yeah.
Oh, no. I was just nodding my head. Yeah, they can.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you think about everything being the one infinite creator, you can appreciate that even a rock is an expression of this one finite creator, and it has a higher self. And this higher self, if you can talk to it, and Ra goes on to mention that you basically have all distortions kind of reconciled. If not, you need a collective to be able to do this, right? Do you want to speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah. Ross suggested that the totally activated person with all chakras fully functioning is very rare. That kind of person could create a pyramid, just like the one at Giza. But Ra did not have that type of person available. They had a number of people who together, though they had certain distortions that were not perfect, together they could create the pyramid by doing what I just read to you, by talking to the creator.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to jump into the sort of new age manifesting, right, theories, which is that if you want something so bad and you will it, then it's going to happen. But there's always the requirement for you on planet Earth to do something physical, right? So could it be, devil's advocate, that even though Ra was communicating to the finite rockness that was then able to connect and communicate with its infinite rockness and then get that message back to rearrange itself in so and so way, did humans have to participate in that by helping maybe chisel the rocks and then moving it? Or was it just a, hey, rock, do this, and then everyone kind of sat back and watched it do it on its own?
Um, there was not any type of human participation in the
Yeah.
creation of the pyramids. In
Yeah.
fact, the pyramids were a tremendous surprise to the Egyptians at that time. They were created uh, at a time to coincide with the birth of an entity called Imhotep that later would be deified and given credit for the building of the pyramids. But there was no type of human intervention or participation in the building of the pyramids. And just exactly where the rock came from, uh, we don't know. Ra did not say, but I am assuming that because they were working interdimensionally, and when Paul Shockley saw them half revealed from the waist up and couldn't see them from the waist down, they were working interdimensionally, and they actually created the rock, much as the entire universe was created by the primal logos that was the first manifestation of the one infinite creator that created the entire universe so the creator could know itself, the sole reason for the creation, know itself through every portion of its beingness, every intelligent energy, which in all the energies are intelligent, rock, plant, mineral, people, whatever.
Hmm.
So that I believe, I don't know it, that's just my opinion, that's where the stones came from. They were created by the same force that basically love. The love, the free will focusing through love creates light, and the light has the photons vibrating at various angles of rotation and speeds of rotation, and they condense into what we call physical matter, the periodic table of elements. So they just went through the whole process right there on a magnificent, huge scale. I mean, I don't know the exact dimensions, but the Pyramid of Giza is huge. It's just, amazing.
It is. It's imposing, and again, it created sort of that environment where you would go in and isolate yourself from external stimuli, right? Especially if you buried yourself in the lowest chamber, the concentration chamber, right, or the resonating chamber. Sorry, not concentration chamber, the resonating chamber, away from everything and everyone in this just imposing large building, which, like we said, served so many purposes. And with the spiraling energy, I meant to ask you this. We're kind of going backwards, but for some reason, can you speak to why the pyramid shape spirals energy and then makes it move upwards instead?
Yeah. No, I can't. I
Okay.
don't know why. It's just the way it works with a pyramid shape. The prana that is everywhere in around us. We're engulfed in it at all
Hmm.
times. The love light of the creator. When it is introduced into a pyramid shape, that triangular shape with four sides, it comes in through the bottom in that half spiral. Then something about the four sides at that angle cause it to spin and cause those two and a half spirals in the pyramid and the third one from the top of the pyramid to occur. But as to why that happens, it's a mystery.
We'll just say it's part of the creation as well
Yeah.
at this point. Um, Another thing we want to talk about is you did mention this already, but the pyramids of Giza weren't the first ones that were built on the planet, it looks like. Because Ra mentioned it was a continuation of the work that the Confederation was doing. So the, the question really here is, what is the goal of the Confederation? Because we now understand kind of why they built the pyramids and what purposes they serve.
They wish to give the population of planet Earth, the third density population, a type of tool to use in accelerating their personal evolution back into unity with the one creator. How that happens on Earth is that we hopefully open our hearts in unconditional love in our relationships with others, at least 51% of the time. And that is enough for us to make the harvest or graduation into the fourth density, where we will continue to refine that so that it becomes more and more total. Now, only 51% is necessary. So the pyramids were used by three different sixth density social memory complexes to help various civilizations on planet Earth. Ra worked with the Egyptians 11,000 years ago. Longer, about 12,000 years ago, another sixth density social memory complex worked with those of Atlantis. And then another sixth density social memory complex worked with entities in South America. And the results were mixed. Ra had the difficulty with the Egyptians in worshiping them as being gods, which does not align with the law of one, which says all are one, all are equal. And the Egyptians also saved the teachings of Ra for the rich and the powerful, which again is another distortion of law of one. So Ra had to take their leave of the Egyptians and look for a way to balance the distortions that they felt responsible for in their naivete.
Mm-hmm.
So the ones that worked with Atlantis had a bigger problem because those entities in Atlantis used the pyramid and crystals to create life forms and do other things and to engage in the government and to have wars between themselves. So that eventually Atlantis was destroyed and was no more. And the entities in South America had the best report card. For about 3,000 years, they followed the instructions and did as those other six, we don't know the names of the other two sixth density social memory complexes, but for 3,000 years, it was a successful event. However, after 3,000 years, things kind of went south there too. And eventually, the entities in South America began to sacrifice human beings on the altars of the pyramids there. So all three social memory complexes of sixth density are given the honor duty of working with planet Earth to try to rectify the distortions. And Ra said they had recorded in the great record of creation how they were naive and no longer would be necessary to be naive.
Yeah.
It's much more harmonious. They had no idea of what would happen with the money and barter system and greed and power. You know, that wasn't part of their culture, but here on Earth, it has been.
Absolutely. It speaks to one thing about this planet Earth where every time you sort of solve a problem, you create a new one, even with the right intention. It almost seems to not escape this environment. Um, and I mean, that has been my experience. And I guess even the folks we considered with our limited perspectives as gods coming here trying to help us, and then they themselves are learning from quote unquote their naivete. Uh, but one other thing I remembered about Ra's desire to actually support the planet evolved by using pyramids is because on their planet, Mercury, the sixth density social memory complex that helped them used pyramids, and it seemed to work for them very well, and they were able to graduate into fourth, fifth, and now I guess sixth density, and so that's why like we are on this planet, we are going to talk about what we know, what has worked for us. We're going to educate and help people say, hey, if you're dealing with a problem that I dealt with, this is the way I solved it. This is how it worked for me. And so they come in introducing pyramids to us, and lo and behold, we're a different different breed.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, Now, speaking about the Egyptians not knowing that the pyramids were being built or actually being surprised by this structure showing up, do you in any way feel that crop circles are a similar type of thing for us in this current time and space?
I just have a hunch, just my own personal opinion, and I could be wrong, that yes, the intricacy and the coincidence of crop circles and how they're made and when they just magically appear is something that is supposed to give us the sense of a universe that has unknown and unsolved mysteries that if we begin to seek some of these, the answers to mysteries, will be taken on a spiritual journey. I think it's the same reason that the Confederation used UFOs throughout the history to give people a feeling of infinity and of mystery and start asking the questions like, are we alone in the universe? Is there a creator? Who made the universe? How big is it? Things like that. The spiritual journey can begin by seeing a UFO or seeing a crop circle and having an open mind and wondering about it and pursuing that and then letting it expand in your life experience to be a symbol of the journey of seeking answers to the mystery of life and why we're here and where we're going.
Yeah, it's a way to remember who you are, right?
Right.
That you are you are what you are seeking, essentially. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the pyramids today, and you've mentioned this, but how are they functioning today?
Well, as Ross said, they're playing the tune, but oh so poorly. Uh, the planet itself has moved into a different place in the galactic spiral of energies, the galactic clock phase, as Ra called it, so that the energies are different now. And the pyramids, though, as Ross said, they're a timeless piece of gadgetry to use for enhancing one's evolution. But now that they have come to this point, they're no longer helpful as they are. The pyramids they built thousands of years ago. The pyramid that you can build yourself with a 60 to 70-degree angle can be very helpful. But in general, the time of the pyramids is past on planet Earth because of the Earth spiraling into a new place on the galactic clock face.
Absolutely. And they even mention you don't even need a pyramid at all, really.
Right.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I'm going to share a quick story. And before I do, I'll ask, in meditating under the pyramids, what kind of experiences did you have?
Well, they weren't as impressive for me as for many because I'm not as sensitive as many are. But I could tell that there was a reduction in the busyness of the mind, the tendency to lose the focus, that they tended to help the focus. We've had homecomings here in the past where people all over the world would come to visit, and I'd had them sit under the little pyramid that I built. And people had various responses, and some were quite impressive. So it's up to each person. I think one of the words that Ra used most that I appreciate is unique. Every person is unique, and no two people will have the same experience. Seeking under a pyramid or without a pyramid, we're all different, and yet we're all the same at the same time. It's a paradox.
Absolutely. I will take this opportunity to really share again one of my unique experiences meditating under a pyramid. Now, the pyramid I had was pretty, or that I have, I still do, is pretty big. It is shaped exactly like the pyramids of Giza, so the same angles. It's not big enough to have a king's chamber, but certainly a queen's chamber. And I had it just on the floor. It's big enough for me to actually lay in it. I think it's 12 feet by 12 feet. The base, the four sides of the base. And I I started using it sometime in like 2017 is when I used it. Yeah, 2016, 2017, before my awakening. And right, I had not come in contact with the raw information. And I was meditating a lot, of course, at that time. But every now and then I would actually sleep underneath the pyramid. And I tell you what, Jim, I had the most interesting experiences that I can, describe. And one of them I'll share real quick. I'm in a pyramid sleeping at night, and I had known through my own little research to turn one of the faces to be true north. And while sleeping, I suddenly found myself, after astral traveling, onto this place that looked like a bazaar. So I was, honest to goodness, I'm on this bazaar, and the floor is made out of just alternating blocks that look just like masonry in a sense, and it's very beautiful and open. And then there are all these people selling goodies, like jewelry, different fruits, just an open bazaar shopping area. But the individuals or the beings in this place did not look human, but they looked so beautiful and different. And most of them were of what I would describe as feminine or female energy. And they would come up to me and try to talk to me, but I could not understand the language. So it was just this bizarre, bizarre experience, but still very beautiful. They came up with their trinkets to try to sell me stuff, and I was just astro traveling. And early on, I was always very fascinated when I ended up in a place like this, and I always had three questions to ask: Where am I? What year it is? What day it was? Right? Try to figure out like where in the universe am I? Try to get coordinates. Try to get a year and a date. But every time I did that, I would get really frantic and really excited. And then people would basically identify that I did not belong there. Right. So that was my experience with the pyramids. And when they identified that I didn't belong there, I would then have all these eyes look at me as if I was a foreign body. Right. And I would get this sense of, you don't need to be here right now. You need to go back to where you came from. Just like an immune system attacking a foreign body, basically. And then the looks would be so staring, and whoop, I would go back into my body. But one day, when I was flying back into my body, I could vividly feel myself get back into my body underneath the pyramid. And I was accompanied by some beings who did not really, I would say, they weren't very pleased with my sort of journey, right? But it wasn't like bad, bad, bad. But what ended up happening was I heard myself get back in my body, and then I could hear very distinctively a crank that was kind of tying something down, like, and the feeling I got was, get back in your body and stay there. Right? And then there was this sort of crank just tying me down, like, stay right here, don't go out. Uh, but
Yeah.
that was one of sort of the many experiences that I thought I would share that were really fascinating as a
Oh, yeah.
result of me meditating under a pyramid. Yeah. And I still have it. And if you search online, you can buy pyramids anywhere and meditate under them. But this is neat. And we're not, I think, is there anything else you would like to add about what you've learned from Ra's discussions of the pyramids? I think we've covered a big chunk of it, but I want to make sure that you have said everything.
Yeah, I think I've covered all the bases. I think that for me, the way I use the pyramid nowadays, as I mentioned, is that the small pyramid under my pillow just before I get out of bed in the morning. And that I think is something that's very accessible to anybody. And it really does seem to help. Uh, Basically, my mental acuity, being able to choose the right words at the right time. And that's really helpful. And plus, I think the spiritual will.
Yeah, no kidding. Um, Me personally, I don't use it anymore. I don't bring it out. It's stashed somewhere. After having this discussion, maybe I will. I don't know. But I found, again, meditating without the pyramid, I do get the healing. I do have the will to continue to serve the one infinite creator, and remember more and more of who we are. And before we close, again, in reading everything Ross said, there's a big need to to sort of go beyond that primary distortion of forgetting who you are. And the pyramid served as a place for you to, go past that and remember
Right.
who you are. Yeah. And I find that very fascinating because I'm a big fan of meditating, and that's kind of what they were built for.
Well, yeah, that's basically it. Ross suggested that our silent meditation is basically a way for us to come into contact with the infinite creator. It is in meditation that the creator speaks to us. Carla had a nice way of putting it. She said, in meditation, the creator speaks to us in thoughts too deep for words. Although you may hear some words, you will probably feel an inspiration or a direction or a realization. And so I think that is really the value of meditation. Really, prayer, we're talking to the creator. In a meditation, we're listening to the creator.
We're listening. Yeah, that is beautiful, right? And it's a very unique and it's a very subjective and it's a personal experience too. And you're right. Those words will fail you when you try to describe some of those experiences. But
Yeah.
what's neat is with people who meditate regularly, in your attempts to describe those experiences, it's almost like there's this commonality of experience and language that you both have. And so the information translates and it resonates. So,
Right.
yeah. All right. Well, as always, Jim, thank you so much for coming. Before we go, I just wanted to say, guys, if you are liking these conversations that we're having, if it's helping you sort of remember who you truly are, expand your consciousness, um, like the video, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And by all means, please visit L&L Research's new website. I've been on there, it's fascinating. And seriously, you could read it for the next 10 years and you will always find something new. The books are on there, there's guides on there, guides for wanderer. There's a handbook on being a wanderer that Carla wrote that I think it's fascinating. Handbook on how to channel. Um, just so much information and it continues to be updated, right? Because you guys are channeling and writing that info up. And you're also, I hope I'm not spilling the beans here, but you're also writing a couple of books, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Carla wrote Living Law of One 101 of Choice back in 2005 to help people try to get a better grasp on the Law of One. Ra tends to talk in very difficult concepts, and sometimes sentence structure is very complex. So she wanted to write a book that would be easier for people to understand that. And she also had a plan to write two more books in addition to that. And she made outlines for Living Law of One 102, the outer work, and Living Law of One 103, the inner work. And so I've written first draft copies that are hopefully something that she would be proud of. 102 is slowly being edited right now by Gary and Austin. It's taking a while because there have been so many other good things happening. There wasn't been time for it with our new website and then our new hires. So eventually those will be available too. And everything that we've got, by the way, on our website is available for free as a PDF download. So that was always Don's great dream, is to make everything that we ever did available worldwide for free. And the internet has allowed us to do that.
Absolutely. Ah, well, there you go. If you're curious about this information and so much more, lnlresearch.org. I'll have links in the note section of this uh, video that you're watching. And if nothing else, Jim, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for talking to us about the pyramids and enlightening us on what Ross said. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. I always appreciate talking about the Law of One, and you always ask the great question, Roland. So we'll have to do this again.
Yes, we will. Thank you. And guys, create an amazing day, meditate, and remember who you are.